Do you struggle really communicating with confidence and knowing how to articulate your thoughts in a clear and engaging way? Do you feel like when you speak up in a meeting or a group environment, no one really listens to you? Or maybe you're like me and you're a big introvert and you really just struggle knowing how to communicate effectively at all. If this sounds like you, then you are definitely in the right place. What's up? My name is Amber Renee and I'm a TV presenter, personal brand expert and the co-founder of the P2P Learning and Development Academy, where we help you ignite your career progress, become an employee of choice and get that promotion. I have spent years working with corporate professionals, and what I know for a fact is that one of the biggest factors that plays the biggest role in corporate confidence or lack thereof is often the person's ability to or inability to communicate with confidence. Communication is critical to success in business and in life. So whether you're concerned about an upcoming interview or you're anxious about speaking up during a meeting, in this video, you're going to learn my top 5 techniques that will help you speak spontaneously with greater confidence and clarity. So here's the thing. When it comes to communicating with confidence, it's the little things that make a big difference. So tip number 5, while sounding pretty basic, can have a really powerful impact on how you present and how your audience receives you. And that is to set an intention for the outcome. Now this is so easy and really can be used in any situation, whether it's a professional networking event, a job interview, or even for any awkward social situations, which as an introvert is almost every social situation, such as meeting new friends, sometimes even meeting old friends. Anyway, back to the topic. So before your next meeting or social situation, I want you to ask yourself the following questions to get really intentional about how you would like your engagement to roll. So firstly, ask yourself, what do you want to take away from the interaction? Are you there to get new business? Are you there to learn something about someone? Or are you there to share your own personal knowledge and wisdom to educate others on your point of view? Then I want to ask yourself, what do you want to bring to the engagement? So what I like to do here is I like to set an intention of how I want those people or that person to feel about me as a result of this interaction. So I say to myself, what adjectives do I want to be seen as in this interaction? So for instance, do I want to be seen as helpful? Or do I want to be seen as confident or engaging or intelligent or empathic? And I usually have 3 in the back of my mind when I'm heading into a meeting. Now I know this sounds so simple, but by giving a little thought and intention as to how you want to be seen and to be received, this will get you out of your own head and you'll be able to communicate with greater confidence because you've already set the intention of how you want this interaction to proceed. The best conversations and the best conversationalists always set an intention for the interaction, and I encourage you to be a little more intentional with your next engagement. So my expert tip number 4 to communicating with confidence is to develop expert status. Easier said than done, right? Just roll with me here for a little bit. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes that I see professionals making in their workplace that diminishes their own personal brand is that they adopt a position of submission. So they use diminishing words like, oh, I think that's what it is, or oh, I'm not sure, or it's not too much to ask, is it? Mostly I see a lot of women in this sort of situation, and women have been conditioned to express themselves in a way that lacks power and authority. And I mean, the other thing that women do a lot of, which is actually a pet peeve of mine, is to apologize when it's not necessary. Oh, I'm so sorry that you're running late and that you're going to ruin my day. Sorry about that. No need to apologize there. Or what about, oh, I'm so sorry, but I don't think that data is correct. That's such a powerless statement. Instead, simply saying something like, that data isn't actually correct, is so much more impactful, and by using a simple shift of vocabulary, you appear 10 times more confident than you did in the submissive statement. So look, the fact of the matter is, you're the expert in your role. You're in that role because you were chosen as the best person for that role. That's why you're there. And you're in that job interview because the recruiter thinks you'll be great for the job. That's why you got the meeting. That's why you were called in. So you need to shift your focus away from self-doubt to knowing your value and trusting that you already are an expert. I want you to recognize your own value in your organization. Recognize that you specialize in the work that you do. There's likely hardly anyone else in the company that knows what you know about your particular role. You're the expert. Well, I'm hoping so anyway. So that means that you need to trust in your own knowledge and the experience that you've been able to develop in this position. You got it, Guru? Okay, cool. Let's move on. So in the next tip, you're about to hear what Oprah Winfrey describes as the 4 most important words that anyone wants to know. But before we get to that, if you are loving this, give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to download your ultimate cheat sheet to get a promotion, a pay rise, or more perks at work. You can grab it below. So what does Oprah Winfrey describe as the 4 most powerful words? Oprah says these are: did you see me? Did you see me? Did you hear me? Does anything I say mean anything to you? Being able to communicate with confidence isn't just about what you want to say. In fact, the most confident communicators are usually the best listeners because they're able to create true connection and intimacy with the people they're talking to. That's why building confidence and trust is done through effective listening, which brings me to my top tip. Tip number 3, effective listening. So communicating with confidence is not just about what you're saying. To create effective relationships and be a powerful leader, we can't just hear people. We have to listen, acknowledge, validate, and empathize with them. They have to know we are listening. As Oprah says, all we want to know is, did you see me? Did you hear me? When we're in conversation with people, we often have our own agenda, some sort of agenda running around in our own heads. Most times our listening is internally focused, which means that we're making up our listening about us and not truly understanding and connecting with the person in front of us. I'm sure you can all remember that conversation that you had with that guy or that girl where you could tell they weren't really listening to you. In fact, they were just waiting for their time to talk. How did you feel in that conversation? Were you excited to speak to them? On the other hand, effective listening requires you to be fully present in a conversation. It requires you to get off automatic mode, stop making this conversation about you, and really pay attention to the person in front of you. Now, the great thing about this is that when you get off automatic and you genuinely listen, you immediately establish unconscious rapport with the person you're talking to. You create connection, you build intimacy, and that person will typically think a lot higher of you. Hence, you're able to communicate with more confidence. When we're truly listening and connecting with others, that's when we're making the communication about them and not about us. And we're committed to being present and engaged in the conversation with the only agenda to ensure that we connect. Again, I know you remember that time. I still remember a guy that I spoke to. He was so present, he was so connected, and I really felt that he was able to hear me and see me. And I still remember that time. I still hold that guy in such respect because of the way that he made me feel. I'm sure you've got someone like that in your life as well. And he was able to do that simply by really listening to me. So a simple tip you can use to help with this the next time you're in conversation, whether you're on the phone or in person, is simply say to yourself, Amber, stop talking, start listening, get present. Just creating that awareness dialogue is really effective. And just remember, this thing is a skill and a discipline, and I find most people have to really practice it consciously in order to become great at it. Okay, so now that we know how to listen effectively, let's learn how to powerfully speak. Powerful speaking. In this tip, you're going to learn some techniques that the most powerful and persuasive speakers use to influence. So you've probably got that favorite politician or speaker that you've seen who is truly persuasive and able to command a crowd just with their words. You might be surprised to learn that that speaker is actually using a heap of vocal techniques to make their message more impactful. In fact, a good speaker draws you in and engages you just with their voice. Confident communicators connect to others through their words, their gestures, and their voice. In fact, there was a study done by Dr. Albert Morabian that found that of our overall communication message, 7% of our overall communication message is made up of our content, so what we're actually saying. 38% of our overall message is made up of the quality of our voice, our speech, and grammar. And a whopping 55% of our overall communication message is made up of our presentation and non-verbal cues, things like body language. Now, I'm not going to get into this in this video. In fact, I have a whole video on this. You can watch it here. It's called Influencing with Impact. Go and check it out at the end of this. But for now, let's focus on the 38%, the quality of our voice, our tone and grammar. So I want you to think of how you would naturally tell a story to your friends. Typically, your voice speeds up when you're talking about something really exciting, and then your voice slows down when you're getting to the dramatic part. Start paying attention to the tones you naturally use when you're not under a stressful environment, and have a play around with your voice and start incorporating them into your next presentation or interview. Now, one other thing that really undermines confidence in the eyes of others is when you use inflection rising at the end of a sentence when you're not asking a question. So when we ask a question, our voice and inflection typically rise. Hey, are you okay? My voice went up at the end to indicate a question. When you use these throughout your speaking, when you're not asking a question, it makes it seem as though you're not confident in what you're saying. And it looks as though you're really questioning your own self. Not a great way to inspire confidence in the person you're trying to influence. Instead, try to consciously end all sentences with your inflection falling. It's a much more persuasive and confidence-inducing technique. Speaking of confidence-inducing techniques, pausing is one of the most powerful ways to emphasize a critical piece of your presentation. And I would recommend adding them in consciously to any big moments or ideas you want your audience to really listen to. Now, on the flip side, if you found yourself in an unconscious pause when you're trying to remember the next thing that you're about to say, I want to let you know it's actually a good thing for your audience, as it gives them a minute to process your last few statements. So what feels like a long time for you internally where you're trying to figure out what you're going to say is actually not that long for your audience. And the other thing that I get asked about all the time is ums and ahs. People are like, oh my God, I say so many ums and ahs. And as a speaker, again, it's something that we are way more conscious of than our audience. So in our own head, we're like, oh my God, that's another oh God, another R. And so in our own heads, we're beating ourselves up. But again, I promise you, your audience is really not noticing them as much as you think. So make your voice more interesting by changing your tone, inflection, and adding pauses into your next conversation. A good speaker touches you, makes you listen, and makes you act just with their voice. So practice delivering your words with conviction and confidence in situations that have little to no significance, like over the dinner table with your family, and soon you'll become a powerful and persuasive speaker. Okay, my number one tip that you need to use in order to become a confident communicator, and that is eye contact. You can tell a lot about how a person carries themselves by the type of eye contact they maintain. We all know how we felt when we're trying to talk to someone and they just look at the ground, or they're a little bit shady and they just kind of look away, and you're like, hey, you've been listening to me? And you automatically assume that they're lacking in confidence. What I want you to do instead is bring awareness to what your eye contact is doing in your next job interview or presentation. And a really simple yet effective way to do this when you're faced with a group of people is to deliver one thought to one face at one time, and then move on to the next person, deliver the next thought or the next sentence to that one person, and work your way around the room. The benefit of this is that it will help you feel like you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone, and it'll help reduce a lot of that stress that comes along with speaking in a group environment. Now, if you're in a job interview or an important meeting, you really want to maintain a good eye contact throughout your conversation. When your interviewer is speaking, look directly at his or her face, and avoid darting your eyes around the room as it makes you look nervous or just that you're lacking in confidence. Keep in mind at the same time that if you look away or if you look down to the left too often, it will signal to the interviewer that you're not confident, or if you're looking down to the left, it kind of signals that you're not telling the truth. So again, this is so important. Interviewees often avoid the gaze of the interviewer, or they look down because they're feeling nervous. But this is showing to your interviewer that you're actually lacking in confidence and maybe even trustworthiness. Next up, you're definitely going to want to check out this video on Influencing with Impact, where I share 5 strategies for building charisma and influence. And don't forget to download your ultimate cheat sheet to get a promotion, a pay rise, or more perks at work using our link below. Hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up, and let me know which one of these tips you're going to be incorporating this week in your next presentation or interview. My name's Amber Renee, and thanks so much for watching.